Welcome into the Division Two football show. I am Devin Albertson. Hope everybody's enjoying their week. Doing this one a little bit earlier than I have in the past, just because playoffs came out. I wanted to get some other stuff done with the NFL and major college football done a little bit later in the week since those polls come out a little bit later. I want to do that stuff just a little bit delayed. So I want to do this D2 show, get ready for the playoffs this week, make sure it's out there in plenty of time so everybody can get a hold of it. Hope everybody enjoys this show. Just kind of my own opinion on what's going to happen in the playoffs. First, we're going to look at the coaches poll. That's what they have right there. Minnesota State, Mankato, Shepherd, IUP, Fort Hays, Midwestern. Doesn't really matter at this point who those teams are. I'll mention a few more later when I get to the actual picks for each game. And I'm going to pick through all the playoff games and run through each one individually. So the polls really don't matter that much. There's that one. Also, there's a D2 football.com poll. They have IUP, Minnesota State, Ashland, Shepherd, Midwestern. So mix and match top five pretty much in the top 10 really between the two polls. They really don't matter at this point. What really matters is just this. It's the playoff bracket here in Division 2. We'll break this down region by region here as I'll get rid of that. We'll go here first. Super Region number 1, you have IUP as the 1 seed. Shepherd comes in at the 2 seed, followed by Findlay. And their matchup in the first round. The 7 seed, we'll get that in a minute. Assumption got the 3 seed. They were at the 2. They lost last week's regular season, so they fell back to spot. California, PA is in there at number 6. And then Westchester at Shippensburg, 4 or 5 matchup right there. That's what they have in Super Region number 1. Super Region number 2, you have West Alabama. They have the 1 seed. They won the Gulf South, only one loss on the year. In Division 2, they do have an FCS loss. The 2 seed was Virginia State. They won the CIAA. They get the 7 seed from the Gulf South. West Georgia kind of was surprised they actually made it there. The 7 seed after getting beat by West Florida last game of the regular season, but they snuck in there at 7. They're going to be a really quality 7 seed, though, in my opinion. I think at this point, it was Catawba was probably more deserving, but West Georgia's a better team, so they put West Georgia in right there. The 3-6 matchup is Wingate versus West Florida. We'll get that more in a minute. And then, of course, Bowie State hosting Delta State. Then the 4-5 matchup, the chance to play West Alabama. So that's what they have. Super Region number 2. Super Region number 3, one of the more loaded regions. Fort Hays gets the 1 seed undefeated through the MIAA. UND gets the 2 seed as they were undefeated through the GLVC. They get Harding, 7 seed from the GAC. They jumped in after beating Arkansas Tech, who was the 7 seed last week in the last game of the regular season. So nice job there by Harding. The 3 versus 6, I think, is the best matchup in the first round. Ashland versus Northwest should be a defensive match. We'll get more in here in a minute. Ashland, they only had one loss to IUP, who was the 1 seed in Super Region number 1. They went through the GLIAC, the GLIAC, undefeated there. So they're a team to reckon with here in the playoffs. Then you have Ouachita Baptist versus Ferris State over in Michigan. That should be an interesting matchup to see how the GAC champion matches up with the second best team from the GLIAC. The one big thing in this region was Harding getting in over Grand Valley. Opposite from Super Region number 2, where they said West Georgia is probably a better team, though Catawba is more deserving. They put West Georgia in. I think Grand Valley might actually be a better team than Harding. We'll never know. But they did put Harding in over Grand Valley. I think either one would have had a great chance versus the 2 seed UND. I think Grand Valley, if you look at their 3 losses, it's to UND, Ashland, and Ferris, 2 through 4 in the region. I think by combined 11 points. They had an honest gripe to get into the playoffs, but the way the committee looked at it, I think, and I know Ian Carlson from the MIAA, the blogger there, he's been saying it all week, was they looked at quality wins and not quality losses. They judged the teams on who they beat. In Harding, they beat Baptist and Tech this year, who are 5 and probably 9 in the regional rankings. And Grand Valley State, their best win was either against Michigan Tech or Tiffin. So those two teams were right at 6-7 wins this year. Tough to when you argue wins. It's hard to argue Grand Valley over Harding. I know Grand Valley played a tougher schedule. I mean, their quality losses are better than anybody else in the nation. You lose by 11 points to 2, 3, and 4 in their region. Tough to see that. Harding lost to a couple teams they probably shouldn't have beginning of the year, but on an 8-game winning streak. And they rewarded Harding for winning out and controlling their business there. So, as some people say, if you start arguing quality losses, you've lost your argument. So, I think the tournament's always better when Grand Valley's in. I think it brings more attention to the tournament. But Harding, I'm not going to hold it against them. They're not the worst three-loss team in this tournament this season, so I'm not going to hold it against Harding. That's just what the committee wanted. I think the committee wanted a 2-2-2-1 format too, because you have two teams from the MIAA, Fort Hays and Northwest, two teams from the GLIAC, you have Ashland and Ferris, two teams from the GAC, and Ouachita and Harding, and then you had one team from the GLVC, the weakest conference in the region, in UIndy. So I think it was pretty even across the board there. I think the final rankings came out with these 7 up top, followed by 8 at Grand Valley. 9 was either Tech or UCM. I probably would have put UCM there and Tech at 10. So that's kind of what I saw with that. So that's what happened in Super Region number 3. And then Super Region number 4, they had to sort out a little bit of a mess here, a bunch of one-loss teams, a couple two-loss teams getting in. But they have Central Washington getting the 1 seed. They went undefeated in the regular season, as did Minnesota State Mankato. I think Mankato is actually a better team than Central Washington. Nothing against Central Washington. I just think Mankato is really good this year. But they're going to get a 2 seed and home field to at least the regional championship game, if not there, depending on what Central Washington does. Midwestern State also went undefeated as a 3 seed, but they played less games, so that held back them against. That's why they got the 3 seed. And then we'll backtrack here for a second. Pueblo, they got in at the 7. I believe they got in via earned access. I think what really happened is they went from 11 right outside the top 10 to 9 in the final week. 8 was Colorado Mesa, who lost the last game of the regular season to Azusa Pacific. They switched those two to the head-to-head, which put Pueblo up to 8, which then vaulted them over, I think, Duluth there for that 7 spot. So they gave Pueblo the earned access over the 7 spot Duluth. So Duluth, 2-loss team. Their losses were to, I believe, Sioux Falls and Minnesota State. So 2 quality teams there, but quality losses, hard to argue there with the silo scheduling there. And they did get 3 teams in from that conference, so it's really hard to say, well, you get 3 teams in from one conference and none in from another. So the RMAC is represented this year in the playoffs. Midwestern taking on Sioux Falls. That should be a fun matchup. 2 clashing styles, along with Commerce versus Winona. Those should be some fun matchups in Super Region 4 to see how the Lone Star Conference versus the Northern Sun Conference, Intercollegiate Conference, how those 2 conferences match up. But we're going to get now to the picks that I have for this week. We'll just go region by region. We'll start out in Super Region number 1, the 4-5 matchup. We'll start here. Westchester versus Shippensburg should be a fun matchup. Westchester comes in 8-3. They went 6-1 in conference. Shippensburg 10-1, 6-1 in conference. Their one loss was to Westchester earlier this year. I actually picked that game early. I picked Westchester to win the first one, but I think Shippensburg now is playing better football than what Westchester is. Westchester just came off a tough loss to IUP in the PSAC championship game. I think Shippensburg wins this. I know Massey agrees with me. He said 28-21. I'll go 24-21. Shippensburg should be a fun matchup. In the playoffs, a couple things here. Westchester, they're making their 12th playoff appearance. They're 9-11 in the playoffs. They made the playoffs in 88, 89, 92, 94, 04 through 08, 13 and 14. They made the semifinals in 04 and in 2013. They're 4-3 in the playoffs versus their own conference. They're actually beat Shippensburg in 04 on their way to the semifinals. They are unranked right now, but that's what Westchester's playoff history is. A little better than Shippensburg, comes in 3-5. Their playoff appearances, they're 6-1. Others came in 81, at 91, 04, 09, and 2012. They've been one and done in the playoffs twice, but I think they're going to win here. They're 1-3 versus the PSAC. They're 1-3 at home, but I think they have a better team this year. I'll take the Red Raiders in this one to win 24-21, as the Red Raiders are 21st in the D2 poll and 19th in the coaches poll. I just think that right now they're playing better football than Westchester. Up next here, we will have Findlay versus Shepherd. Should be a fun matchup. Findlay, they did not win the GMAC. I know this is not a controversy in that region where they actually lost to Ohio Dominican, but Ohio Dominican's resume wasn't as good, even though they won the GMAC. It was really confusing for that region. I wasn't able to follow up on it as much as they had the other ones. LIU Post, they also had a gripe to get in. So there was 3 teams vying for one spot. They chose Findlay, who went 9-2, 6-1 in their conference. So that's what they chose. It's their first Division II playoff appearance. They did win an AIA championship in their last year in that subdivision in 1997. They actually won 4 NAIA titles in 79, 92, 95, and 97. But they are unranked, and they were the first team out in the coaches poll. So right now they're technically 26th. They're still a solid team. They can put up a bunch of points. You can see they're 17 points per game. They can score, only allow 17. They score almost 48. Very high explosive offense there, 510 yards per game, top 10 in the nation. Their team likes to run the ball a lot, seventh in the nation there. They should be able to put some points up against the Shepherd defense, which you can see by the numbers isn't great. They are better against the run than the pass, so that might be a better matchup there with Finley. But Shepherd, they also have the playoff experience. This is their 11th playoff appearance. They're 13-10 in the playoffs. They made the playoffs in 98, 99, 05 through 07. They made it in 2010, 2012, 2013, then 15 and 16. They made the semifinals in 2010 and 2016, and a championship game in 2015. So they're a solid team there with Shepherd. They're always a well-run program. They are ranked fourth right now in D2 and second in the AFCA coaches poll. I'm thinking Shepherd to win this one as well. 42-41, that's a lot of points there. I think both teams could get up there, but I'm going to say 42-38 Shepherd over Finley in this one. I think Shepherd's offense is a little bit too much for the Oilers in this one. So, and I just think Shepherd will be able to get enough stops on defense to win this game 10-0, undefeated going into the playoffs. It's a good Shepherd team that's going to be meeting in the playoffs this year, as usual. Up next, Cal PA, the 6th seed, going to Assumption. Cal PA 9-2 on the year, Assumption 9-1. They were undefeated going to week 11. They lost to Bentley in the last game of the regular season. If you look at Cal, their 7th playoff appearance, their second straight. Their 9-6 playoff record. They made 3 straight semifinal appearances actually from 2007 to 2009. They made the playoffs those 3 years plus 2010 and 2011, and then again last year. So they had a nice stretch there between 07 and 11 to making the playoffs. Had a few years of sabbatical there from the playoffs, but they're back in this year. They're actually ranked 22nd in the D2 poll, and just a couple spots outside the coach poll, actually 27th if you add up all the votes. So right now, a very solid Cal PA team. I do worry about their pass defense, ranked 154th out of 168 teams, but their offense is so explosive. And when it comes to a PSAC school versus a Northeast 10 school, I usually take the PSAC school. I think they're going to be able to go on the road and get a win here. Assumption, this is their 3rd playoff appearance. They've all come in the last 3 years. They are 1-0 at home. They're 1-2 overall in the playoffs. Their win at home was in 2015 versus Bowie State, 51-29. Last couple of years, last year, they lost at Shepherd 48-31, and in 2015 they lost in the second round at Slippery Rock 41-39. So they've been able to play with teams. I just don't see them winning against Cal PA. I think Cal PA is playing well at the right time here. Assumption is ranked 15th in both the D2Football.com poll and the AFCA poll. So I do like Cal to win this game, though. I know they have Assumption 33-24. I'm going to go high scoring here, 38-35. Cal wins this one on the road in the playoffs. Should be a fun one. That's what I have for Super Region number 1. I have Shippensburg, Shepherd, and Cal PA winning. So definitely take 2 PSAC schools and 1 MEC school to make it out of the first round there. We'll go to Super Region number 2, the 4-5 matchup to play, West Alabama. I got Delta State versus Bowie State. 8-3 Delta versus 9-1 Bowie. Bowie's 1 loss with Virginia State, who got the 2 seed in this region. If you look, Bowie State has about every statistical category you can want. Best scoring offense, best total offense, 4th in passing, tied 11th in rushing. Their defense is still top 20, top 30 in the nation, including top 10 against the pass. But I think this will be a little bit of a step up in competition. They played most of the year. The CIAA is not known to be a tough conference. I know they're trying to get that a little bit resolved this year. I think Bowie State holds a decent team. I'm kind of torn on this one. I think Delta State's defense is good enough to maybe limit Bowie State. I know that passing matchup's not great there for Delta, but Massey thinks this is a close one, 35-34 Bowie. I think Delta wins this one, 34-33. This one's going back and forth in my head, but I'll take the Statesman here. If you look at these 2 teams in the playoffs, Bowie State, this is their 3rd playoff appearance. They made the playoffs in 1988 and in 2015. They're 0-2 in the playoffs. This is their first home playoff game in school history. They're ranked 19th in the D2 poll and 14th in the coaches poll. While Delta State, they're making their 9th playoff appearance. They're 14-7 all time. They made the playoffs in 98, 2000, where they won the title. Made it again in 06, where they made the semifinals. 07, 08, 2010, when they were the runner-up. 2011, where they the semifinals again, and then 2014. They've been 1-and-done twice. They're 4-3 on the road in the playoffs. But I think they go on the road and win this one. I know they're unranked in the D2 poll and they're 30th technically in the coaches poll. But I think Delta State has enough in this one. And they played in a really tough conference of the Gulf South. They really beat up on each other this year. I think Delta State has enough to win this one on the road against Bowie. So give me the Statesmen in that game. And up next here, we will have West Georgia versus Virginia State. Another Gulf South versus CIAA matchup. The Trojans of Virginia State won their conference this year. West Georgia making their third playoff appearance. They made the playoffs in 2014 and 15. They both times made the semifinals and lost to the eventual national champions, Colorado State Pueblo and Northwest Missouri State. Right now they're ranked 25th in the D2 poll and just a little bit outside the coaches poll at 31st. They were kind of surprised to make the tournament over Catawba, as I said earlier, but their defense is really, really good, and they have a lot of good athletes down there with West Georgia, a good coach with Dean, who was previously at Valdosta State. If you look at Virginia State, this is their second playoff appearance. They made the playoffs in 2014. They're 1-1 in the playoffs. They beat LIU Post at home that year. 28-27, they lost at Bloomsburg. The next matchup, 35-14. They're ranked 13th in the D2 poll and 11th in the coaches poll. Their offense is explosive, scoring almost 40, a little over 43 points per game and almost 500 yards of offense per game. Really good rushing attack, but I think West Georgia's defense will be able to rally around that a little bit and limit that rushing attack a bit. I know Cannon, the running back, is an absolute animal for Virginia State, but I think West Georgia has enough there to slow him down and get the win. So does Massey. They say 34-24. I'm going to go a little bit closer than that, 30-23. West Georgia. I think West Georgia need to keep us below 30 points to win this one, especially on the road against a very good and explosive Virginia State team. I just think this is a bad matchup for them versus West Georgia, who's probably the most dangerous 7 seed in this tournament. Up next, we got West Florida versus Wingate. Both these are really good stories, actually. Wingate making their second ever playoff appearance, made the playoffs in 2010. They actually won a home playoff game that year versus Morehouse, 63-41. They lost at Albany State by 2 points, just 30-28. They were so close making the next round. They're 9-1 this year. They actually lost their last game of the regular season, or else they probably would have had the 1 seed in this region, actually. 18th in the D2 poll, 16th in the coaches poll, out of the SAC conference, South Atlantic Conference there for Wingate. They won that one. But, I mean, if you look at them, a good rushing attack, 220 yards per game, solid defense. West Florida's a team that, if you look at them statistically, there's no reason they're good. I mean, there's no reason that they're 8-3 in a good conference, but they find ways to win. Hence last week when they beat West Georgia. This is even more impressive when you think this is their first playoff appearance. Well, their second year of the program. So I like the Argonauts in this one. I think they have enough athletes down there with the Florida recruiting. West Florida, I think it's a team that can be reckoned with here next couple of years. Down there in the Gulf South. West Florida, they're unranked in the D2 poll. They're ranked technically 35th in the coaches poll in the top 25. Their votes get them at 35th. I just like West Florida in this one. There's no special rhyme or reason. I was kind of glad they jumped in from 10-6 with that last win over West Georgia in the season. But I like West Florida in this one over Wingate. So I like the 3 Gulf South schools in the first round over the CIAA schools and the SAC school. And this one will have an all Gulf South region going into next weekend. That could be interesting if those teams get to play each other again and bang up on each other a little bit more down there in Super Region number 2. We'll head now a little bit to the side. We're going to go to Super Region number 3. You have Ouachita Baptist 9-2 on the year, the GAC champs, the Great American Conference champions. They beat Henderson State, stamped their 30-game road winning streak in that title-clinching game. It's funny because Henderson State had just walked across the road for that road game, but they couldn't get it done. As the Tigers came away with the 49-42 win, so a lot of points there scored by the Tigers. If you look at Ferris State, they've played a couple teams in the playoffs this year. They actually played Findlay earlier this year and beat them pretty good. And then up next, they lost to Ferris State. Lost to Ashland whenever their starting quarterback was out, and Reggie Bell, but he's back now. Ferris State might actually be one of the better teams in this bracket, being the 4th seed in this region. They're really, really, really good 4 seed in the playoffs this year, especially with Reggie Bell back. 14 points allowed per game, 9th best in the nation, 7th best in the yards allowed total. And if you look at the Tigers defense, it's not good. It's just not good. I think Ferris State's line is going to be too good for them to handle, for the Tigers to stop. It says 42-24. I think it's about the same ballpark I'm going. I'm going to go 45-28. I think Ferris State's defense is good. They'll allow a couple of late garbage touchdowns. The score will be closer than the actual game was. I think Ferris State's just really good this year. It's not really anything against the Tigers. I know the GA schools feel like there's a little bit of a slight against them because they've had some struggles in the past in the playoffs, even with Harding making the regional final last year. In Super Region number 3, I just don't. I think this is a bad matchup for Baptist. I think Ferris State might actually be the best team in this region, just at the 4 seed right now. Will be a really dangerous team to play throughout the playoffs. Baptist may be making their second playoff appearance. The other was 2014, lost in the second round after having to bye the first round to Duluth, 48-45. They're ranked 24th in the D2 poll, 25th in the coaches poll. If you look at Ferris State, they're making their 9th playoff appearance. They're 4th straight. They're 9-8 in the playoffs. They made the semifinal last year, lost at Northwest Missouri State 35-20 in Northwest's toughest game of the year last year. Also made a semifinal in 1995. They didn't go well versus North Alabama, but they're still a really good program. They're coach there now. Doing a really good job getting guys in there, getting good recruits in. And I think Ferris State just too talented for the Tigers in this one. So I said 45-28. Ferris State wins this one going away. So now we'll go to the next matchup here. Harding, a 7 seed, jumps in over Grand Valley State, as I said earlier, 8-3 on the year. Runs that triple option, number 1 rushing attack in the nation and the worst passing attack because you run the triple option. They still score 35 points per game with that offense. No UND. I'm just not impressed with their line play this year. Harding, this is making their 4th playoff appearance, their 2nd straight. They made the playoffs in 2012, 2014, and 2016. They're 2-3 in the playoffs. In 2012, their season ended 1 game and they lost at Northwest 35-0. In 2014, they lost to Pitt State 59-45 when Pitt State was good at the time. Then you look at last year in the playoffs, they beat UCM in the first round 48-31. Then they won at Sioux Falls 27-24. Kind of got that GAC monkey off their back as the team finally made the regional final. And they played really well in those 2 games, so they had to run into the buzzsaw that was Northwest. Northwest again beat them 35-0. As I said, Harding made the regional final last year. Just a bad matchup with Northwest when they got there. I do like Harding a lot in this game. They're unranked. They're ranked technically 33rd in the coaches poll. If you look at UND, I know I said Harding 1-3 in the playoffs. It's not great. Still better than UND's. They're making their 5th playoff appearance. Made the playoffs in 75, 2012, 2013, and 2015. They're 1-4 in the playoffs. You look at their playoff history. In 2012, they beat Midwestern State at home 31-14. Then they lost at Pueblo 28-7. 2013, they lost at home to West Texas A&M 27-14. Then 2015, they lost at Pueblo again 27-14. So all 3 of their losses in the playoff come by double digits. So that's one thing to look forward to here. They don't play a lot of close playoff games, either beat them by double digits or they lose by double digits. They're 1-1 at home in the playoffs. While Harding is at 1-4, 1-3 in the playoffs. Sorry, so they've really struggled a bit. 1-3 on the road in the playoffs. Yep, so 1-3 in the road in the playoffs. I know UND, they're ranked high in both polls, 9th in D2, and then 6th in the coaches poll. But I think a lot of the UND stuff is just them playing in a bad conference. It's just the GLVC is awful. I know they beat Grand Valley to start the year, but if they played again right now, Grand Valley would be a huge favorite. Even if the game was at UND. I don't trust the Greyhounds at all in the playoffs. They're 11-0 on the year. But I think Harding goes up there with that triple option, runs the ball down their throats a little bit. I'll take Harding to win this one. I'll go with 31-17. I think Harding's defense also stepping up, playing really well in this 8-game winning streak. I think they make it 9 this week, and they're going to beat UND. Up next, also UND, probably the weakest 2 seed there is in the tournament this year. But there's no way you put them below a 1-loss Ashland. There's just no way you do it with the math and stuff like that. So they earn the 2 seed, but they're still a really weak 2 seed based on their talent level, not the resume. Then we'll go to next, the best matchup in the first round. You have the number 6 seed in the region, Northwest Missouri State, at number 3 seed Ashland. Northwest 9-2 on the year. Started out 8-0, lost back-to-back games at Pitt State, then home versus Fort Hays. Lost by 10 on the road, lost by 1 at home. Last game of the regular season, they played at Missouri Western. Their rivals beating 30-0. offense looked a lot better in that game. Made a change at quarterback at the end of the Fort Hays game to Jonathan Baker, the other senior kid from Maryville. If offense has looked better since he's gotten to the game, that's one big question in this game. I trust Ashland's quarterback. I trust Ashland's defense. I extremely trust Northwest defense, which is the best in Division II, hands down. There's no argument in that right now. It is the best defense in Division II. But will the Northwest offense be able to muster up enough to beat Ferris, to beat Ashland here in this game? It's going to be tough. I really don't know the answer to that right now. If you look at these two teams in the playoffs, it's definitely a who's who and then who wants to beat. Right now, Ashland, this is their 7th playoff appearance. That's good. Their first since 2015. The bad thing is they only have one win in that stretch. It was at home. They're 1-2. Their last home game in the playoffs was at Grand Valley State. They lost 45-28 in the first round in 2015. That was also a 3-6 matchup. I know they're ranked 3rd in the D2 poll and 9th in the coaches poll, but that I don't know, there might be a little bit of mind games going here if you're Ashland and you get a good seed, you're the 3 seed in your region, and just like the years past, you get Grand Valley to come to town, you get Northwest Missouri State to come to town, and everybody knows what Northwest kind of brings when they roll into town a little bit. Their 22nd playoff appearance and their 14th straight. They've been in the playoffs for 14 straight years. Last time they didn't make it was 0-1. They lost 3 games in a row that year. They've actually made the playoffs 18 of the last 19 seasons. So it was good to see them get that win. Sorry, it's good to see them get that win at the end of the year to make the playoffs. In their 22 appearances in the playoffs, they've won at least one playoff game 17 times. So only 5 one-and-dones in 22 appearances, in 21 appearances. Only 4 then. 17 times they won at least one more game. That means 4 times they've been one and done. But their last true road game was in 2014 up at Minnesota Duluth in the first round. They lost 25-21. Their road playoff record is really good, actually, historically 12-7, but they have lost their last 3. And another little tidbit here: this is the first ever playoff game for Northwest in the Eastern time zone. They got to travel. It would be a 12-hour drive to Ashland. They're going to get a fly and a charter over there. Last time Northwest played in the Eastern time zone, anybody have it? Anybody have a guess? 1984. That's the year my dad graduated from high school. At Grand Valley State, 26-0. They won that one. That's the last time that they played in a game in the Eastern time zone. It's been all Central, Mountain, or Western time zone, Pacific time zone for Northwest. So right now they're ranked 12th in the D2 poll, 13th in the coaches poll. And Northwest, everything historically is telling me to take them. I think they're getting their offense kind of turning the corner a little bit here. The rushing attack still is not where we would like to have it at this point of the year if you're a supporter of Northwest. But I do think Northwest defense will be able to play well enough, even on the road, to get a win at Ashland. They say 17-14. That's a pretty good guess around the over/under there with this game. If it breaks 40 for the over/under, I'll be shocked and assume there's a couple defensive touchdowns scored in this one. I'm going to go 14-13. Northwest wins this game. I think this will be a really good game all the way till the end. Northwest gets the win on Ashland. I just think it's going to be good. This will be the best game to watch if you're ready for playoff football in this one. So that means I am taking Ferris State along with Harding as well as Northwest Missouri State in the first round in this super region. Okay, so we're going to move to the next super region here real quick. We have Texas A&M Commerce versus at Winona State, the 4-5 matchup in super region number 4. Commerce comes in at the 5 seed. Their only loss this year was at Midwestern State by, I think, a touchdown. That game was actually a lot worse than what the score indicated. Commerce made a nice comeback late to make it respectable, but the game really wasn't close throughout most of it. Winona, their one loss is to Minnesota State Mankato. Look at Texas A&M Commerce. This is their 6th playoff appearance, their 3rd straight. They made the playoffs in 90, 91, 95, and then 2015 and 2016. They're 3-5 in the playoffs. They're 1-5 on the road. So a team that they were hoping to get the 4 seed here to get a host game, but that 9-1 record, that one extra win for Winona got them that host right there, as Commerce is ranked 8th in both the D2 and the coaches poll. As you can see there, the defense is pretty good, only allowing about 15 points per game, 13th best in the nation. Also scoring about 40 per game And of course, most of theirs through the air, averaging 365 yards per game there. So really kind of a one-dimensional offense, but they play Winona, who is pretty decent against the pass, 35th in the nation. It's a good defense overall, 8th scoring. They're making their 6th playoff appearance, 1-5 in the playoffs. They made the playoffs in 01, 03, 04, 06, and 07, and they have a home playoff record of 1-1. Their national rank is 11th in the D2 poll and 12th in the coaches poll. This game I kind of went back and forth on. I know Winona's the favorite, 31-24. But I'm taking Commerce in this one, actually. I'm going to go 34-31 Commerce. I think they're going to have enough offense in this one to beat Winona. I think the offenses kind of prevail here, and Commerce gets the win up on the road against Winona. It should be a fun matchup there. I kind of want to see how the Lone Star and the Northern Sun match up with each other. Kind of two contrasting styles between these two conferences. Northern Sun traditionally has been a little more physical, but I think Commerce can match that physicality here and get this win on the road and have a chance at Central Washington next week as the 1 seed in that region. Next game we'll go to here real quick is Colorado State Pueblo versus Minnesota State Mankato. If you look at this game here between these two teams, as many of you know, this is a rematch of the 2014 national championship game where Pueblo won that one 13-0. This is Pueblo's 6th playoff appearance, which is really impressive. Seeing that the program started in 08, so 10 seasons now in D2. They've had 9 straight winning seasons. Technically, this is their 6th playoff appearance, even though technically one in 2015 was vacated, along with 2 of their playoff wins due to self-reported NCAA violations. But I'm this belief when it comes to NCAA violations, you can't take away wins because you know what? We saw the game, we saw Pueblo won. It's kind of hard to try to erase that in people's memories. I know people try, the NCAA tries to, I know they self-reported, but in my opinion, they still made the 2015 playoffs and they went 2-1 that year. So with that, their playoff record is 7-4 with playoff appearances in 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. They were 4-6 in year one, 9 straight winning seasons. They've been a consistent product in the RMAC since they joined. I know they lost a couple of teams they probably shouldn't have this year. That's why they had 2 losses. I know some teams over there and were like, should they get in if they lose to bad teams? But they beat Mesa, which gave them the conference title tiebreaker if you go to the playoff committee, and they roll again via earned access over Minnesota Duluth. I think Pueblo's defense keep this close. I just think Mankato's too much. I think Minnesota State in their 10th playoff appearance, another 7-9 in the playoffs. They made the playoffs in 87, 91, 93, 08, 09, then 12, 13, 14, and 15. They've been one and done 5 times out of the Northern Sun, including a couple upset losses where they were the 2 seed a couple years ago against Emporia State, the 7 seed. That was a high-scoring affair, and Emporia actually won that game. I was really surprised Emporia came out and won that one versus Minnesota State Mankato a couple years ago. But with Mankato this year ranked number 2 in D2 and number 1 in the coaches poll, I think they're one of the favorites this year to win it in a wide open field this year. I think Mankato wins this one. I don't think it's going to be 41-14. I think Pueblo's defense can keep this one close. I'm going to go 31-20. So it won't be as bad as Mash is predicting, but Minnesota State still wins comfortably in this matchup. Oops, sorry. And then up next, last matchup that we have here, the 6 seed Sioux Falls as a 3 seed Midwestern State. Midwestern State, as I said, undefeated earlier, 9-0. Had 1 game canceled due to Hurricane Harvey, I believe, and then didn't only schedule 10 games in the first place, so they were already 1 under there. So they get it as a 3 seed. Sioux Falls at 9-2. This is their 3rd playoff appearance back in 15 and 16 as well. So they made some nice strides the last couple of years, 3 straight appearances. They're 1-2 in the playoffs, 0-1 on the road actually in their history in Division II. They missed the playoffs in 2014 with a 10-1 record. That's probably one of the better Sioux Falls teams there actually has been. They won the Mineral Bowl that year, 42-10 over Central Oklahoma. The only loss that year was to Minnesota State. Mankato 27-14 on the road. And Mankato, they won the national championship that year. So they lost to a good team that year. So they probably got robbed in 2014. But they're in here in 2017. They're actually a 4-time NAIA champ, 96, 06, 08, and 09. They went D2 in 2011. So they've had a lot of success in Division II since they went up from NAIA. They're 14th in the D2 poll and 18th in the coaches poll. I think they're going to take this one. I think it says 30-27. That's a pretty good estimate there by Massey. I'm going to go with 28-24, a little bit lower scoring. I think Sioux Falls takes this one, take a couple points off each team, but I think Sioux Falls defense is enough here, and especially if Max Mickey, I think is running back's name, if he plays, I like Sioux Falls a lot. They barely lost to Mankato in the year. No, they lost to Winona earlier this year without him, but I think Sioux Falls defense is good enough. Midwestern, they're making their 8th playoff appearance, their 3rd straight. They're 1-7 in the playoffs, though, including a loss to UIndy. I mean, UIndy's only playoff win in their history came against Midwestern. Their only playoff win was actually in 06 at home versus Missouri Western. 28-26 next week, they got rolled by Northwest. Had to throw that in there. They made the playoffs in 04, 06, 09, 2011, 2012, 2015, and 2016. As I said, the last 3 years they made the playoffs. They're 1-3 at home in the playoffs. So I just don't think they're a good playoff team, and I think Sioux Falls is able to go up on the road and get a win there. So that's what I have for the ticks here. So we're just going to run through these real quick. We'll just go to the regional rankings thing that I have here. I think it's going to be Shippensburg winning, going to play IUP in the next round. I got Cal and Shepherd going on, and Shepherd hosting Cal in the second round. Should be a fun matchup between those two teams. I met up a couple of years ago. Here I have Delta State beating Bowie, going to play West Alabama. And I have West Florida beating Wingate and West Georgia beating Virginia State to set up a rematch of last week's matchup in Week 11. That would be a fun matchup to see how those two teams adjust to that. Super Region number 3, I have Ferris State moving on to take on Fort Hays over in the western Kansas region, so it'll be interesting to see how Ferris plays out there in the middle of nowhere in Hays, Kansas. I have Northwest upsetting Ashland, and UIndy losing to Harding, so Harding wins. Northwest gets a home game in the second round against the Bisons out of Harding, Searcy, Arkansas. That'll be fun. So I got Fort Hays versus Ferris and Northwest versus Harding. All 4 conferences, 3 of the 4 conferences move on to the second round in Super Region number 3. In Super Region number 4, I have Commerce beating Winona to take on Central Washington. Then Sioux Falls and Minnesota State meeting up again for a rematch in the second round there. So that's what I have there. And as I said earlier, this playoff field is wide open. If I had to put any money on any team to win it, my favorite right now would probably either be Mankato or Central Washington. I think those two teams, that's Super Region number 4, and my third team would probably be Ferris State. I think they're just really good down there for Super Region number 3. I think those 3 teams are the 3 favorites, but they're not overwhelming favorites. Last couple of years, Northwest has been. So we'll kind of see what happens there. If I went to a favorite out of Super Region number 1, I would probably go IUP and then Shepherd in there. And then Super Region number 2, West Alabama. I don't know. There's just so many teams that are really close there. I wouldn't be surprised if really any team in that one over there actually won that region. I think that region is really up for grabs in Super Region number 2. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Devin Albertson. Hope you guys enjoyed and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday here. And I'm out here on YouTube.